Bruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem and Daf Mem Amud Aleph, at the very top. After a person washes Netilas Yadayim and makes his bracha Hamoitzi Lechem Min Haaretz, he shall not speak in between the bracha and eating the bread. And Lechatchila, he should not even wait more than Kedei Dibur, more than a couple of seconds. Says our Gemara, Omar Rav, Tol Baruch, Eino Tzarich Levarich. If a person, however, did say, take and make a bracha to the one who is around the table, after he himself made the bracha but before eating, it's not considered to be a hefsek that he has to make another bracha of hamoitzi. Why? Because it's part of the Su'udah. However, Hava Melach Have Lifton Tzarich Levarich. If he says, bring me salt or bring me a lifton, something to eat with the bread, that would be considered to be an interruption, requiring that he make another bracha of hamoitzi. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, afilu heviu melach heviu lifton, nami ein tzarich levarich. Even that would not be considered to be an interruption, because that's the tzarich hasuda also. Gevil leturi, tzarich levarich. However, if he says, mix the grain in the water for my animal, then that would be considered to be an interruption. Rav Sheish Omar, afilu gevil leturi, nami eino tzarich levarich. Even if he says mix the grain with the water for the animals, that will also not be considered to be an interruption, because that's also letzarich hasuda. The Omar of Yehuda Omar Rav, it's prohibited for a person to eat before he feeds his animal. Shenemar, it says, "V'nosati esev besodcha livhemtecho, v'hodar v'achalta v'savata." It says that you shall give the grass of the fields to your animal by feeding him, and then only afterwards, v'achalta v'savata, you shall eat and be satiated. So there's a requirement to first feed your animals before you feed yourself, and therefore this would also be considered to be the tzarich hasu'uda, and would not be considered to be an interruption to require another bracha. Says the Gemara, Amar Rove bar Shmuel mishum Rabbi Chia, ein haboitzeya rashoy livtzoya ad sheyaviu melach oy lifton lifnei kol echad ve'echad. The one who is about to then boitzeya, he makes a bracha and then is going to then break the bread, that person shall not do so until there is melach or a lifton to be eaten together with that bread. That the bread should not be eaten in a bland way. Rava bar Shmuel iklo lebereish galusa, the same one who just taught us this halacha, Rava bar Shmuel, he went to visit the Reish Galusa. Afiku le'rifto ubotza lehedya. They gave him bread to eat, and he made a bracha, and he ate without waiting for then melach or a lifton to be brought. They said to him, they asked, did you retract your teaching about having that there be salt or a lifton before making a bracha on the bread and partaking in it? He says over here it's not required to wait, because over here there was already salt in the bread and therefore it wasn't bland. Thereby I didn't have to wait for either a lifton or additional salt to be brought to the table. The same one who just authored that previous halacha in regards to bread teaches us a different halacha with an altogether different topic. When a person is being mashtin, he's making meiraglayim, he's urinating, he says, if he does it standing up, there's a concern that because of the stream, that maybe he'll then spritz on his own feet or his own shoes, and therefore he'll stop a little bit prematurely. However, when he's sitting down, that's not a concern anymore. And that's what he means to say over here. Ein meraglayim kolim, ela b'yeshiva, only when he's sitting down, then it then completes itself. Omar Rav Gehana, bi'ofra tichuach afilu ba'amida. However, if a person is mashtim even ba'amida while standing up, if he does so inside of sand that is soft, then the urine will be absorbed immediately in the sand. There won't be a concern of nitzoitzis, of being spritzed on the shoes or on the feet. And if you don't have ofar tichuach, yamoid b'makom gavoya v'yashtin l'makom midroin. Then stand in a place that is elevated, and then since it's in an elevated place, there's nothing in front of the person who's being mashtin, there's not a concern either of nitzoitzos. V'omar Rove bar Shmuel mishmei de Rabbi Chia. The same Rove bar Shmuel, the name of Rabbi Chia, teaches the following: Achar kol achilosecho ochol melach. After all of the food that you eat, then eat some salt. And after all of the drink that you partake in, then also make sure to drink some water. And then you won't be damaged, it'll be healthy for you. We also have a brisa to support this. So we see that if a person is going to then have a meal and he's going to eat food, make sure that he has some salt afterwards. And similarly, if he's going to drink, he should then drink some water afterwards. However, this only applies if there's no water inside of the drink in the first place, and that there's no salt inside of the food that he's eating. But if there's already salt and water in the food and the drink that he's eating and drinking, then he doesn't have to eat salt or drink water afterwards. Tanya Idach is another brayso. Ochal kol maichal. He ate all of different types of food and he didn't eat salt. He drank all types of drinks without drinking water. In the day, if it's during the day, you should be concerned that's going to cause a bad odor of the mouth. And at night he has to be concerned that it will cause him to have askara, a terrible disease that will then start in the throat and continue in the innards, in the bnei me'ayim, which causes choking and a person to die. And therefore this is very dangerous. Tana Rabban, the Gemara brings a brayso also in regards to then eating in a way that will be helpful to a person. Hamakpe achilosoi b'mayim einoi bo lidei choli me'ayim. If a person eats and allows the food to then have enough water that it actually floats on the water, then he won't come to problems with his intestines. V'kama, how much water does he have to then drink in order that the amount of food will be able to then flow properly on the water? Rav Chizda keton lepas, a measure of keton of water to a pas, which was a standard measurement of a type of amount of bread as well. Amar Rav Mari, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, harogel be'adoshim achash l'shloshim yom monea askero mitoch beisoy. If a person eats lentils within 30 days, once in 30 days, it will prevent askara, the disease that we were just talking about, because askara is a result of constipation. So therefore, the adoshim, the lentils, which causes the person to then move his bowels, then you'll then prevent this askara from taking effect on his body. Ochal koyoyma, however, loy, he shouldn't eat adoshim on a daily basis, my time on mishum de kosher l'reich hapeh, because it causes bad breath. Says the Gemara, V'omar Rab Mori, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, harogel bechardal achas l'shloshim yom monea chaloim mitoich beisoy. If a person eats mustard and he eats that once in 30 days, that will prevent illness from his household. Aval kol yom aloy, but to eat chardal, to eat mustard on a daily basis is not good either, however. It's not good. My time, what's the reason? Mishum de kosher lechulsha de libo. It causes a person to become weak in his heart, and therefore a person should be careful not to eat mustard too regularly. Omar Rav Chia bar Ashi, Omar Rav harogel bedogim ketani. If a person eats small fish, eino bo lidei choyli me'ayim, it doesn't come to then intestinal sickness. Not only that, they also cause him to then be able to multiply, to have children as a result of these small fish. It's good for him to then procreate. Umavrin kol gufa shel adam, and also is good health. It's healthful for a person's body. Rav Chama bar Rabbi Chanina harogel beketzach eino bali de ke'ev lev. A person who's rogel to eat ketzach. Ketzach is a type of seed that a person eats that on a regular basis, then it says he won't come to a ke'ev lev, to a heart problems. Meisvei Rabbi Shimon Gamliel oimer ketzach echod mishishim simonei hamovesu. He's asking, we find that ketzach in the Brisa says it's one of 60 different types of poisons. So how can you tell me that it's healthful for a person, it's good for his heart? Says the Gemara, concluding the Brisa first, V'hayoshin lemizrach garnoi, if a person lies to the east of the threshing of this, where this is situated, this type of seed called ketzach, damoi beroisho, he's going to cause himself to be killed, to die. That's how dangerous it is. So again, how can you say by eating ketzach, eino bali de ke'ev leiv? Answers the Gemara Lokashio. When it comes to the reach, it's very dangerous. It's like a poison. But when it comes to the tam, the taste, then it's very helpful to a person's heart. Ime de Rabbi Yirmiyahu afyole rifta, when she would bake bread, medab kolei, she would allow the bread to then take this type of seed, this ketzaf, and she would madbik it, she would put it against the dough of this bread, in order to have the taste of the ketzach onto the bread. Umekalfale, however, she would then take off the outer layer of the bread, in order that it shouldn't then have the smell that would remain from that ketzach, which we just said is dangerous. The Gemara now quotes the end of the previous Mishnah that we began the parak with. When it comes to yerokos, they were talking about, let's say, lettuce or cabbage that comes from the ground. The Tanakama, the Rabbanan say the bracha is bori priya adamo. Rabbi Yehuda, however, says the bracha is bore minei deshoim. Rabbi Zeira v'itema Rabbi Chanina bar Papa. Ein halacha ke Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Zeira v'itema Rabbi Chanina bar Papa. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. What is the reason? What is the rationale for Rabbi Yehuda rather to say the bracha on these things are borei minei dishoim? Why not the classical all-inclusive bracha of borei priya adamo? Omar Kro, because the pasuk is Baruch Hashem Yoim Yoim. You should bless Hashem Yoim Yoim. V'chi b'yoim mevarchin oisoi u'balayla ein mevarchin oisoi. That means to say only during the day you should make a bracha and bless HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but at night not. Ella loymar loch, rather to teach you, kol yoim v'yoim tein lo me'ein berkoisov. Every day give that day its special praise to Hashem by giving a special bracha, whether it's Shabbos or if it's Yom Tif, give a special bracha to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hochanami kol min v'min ten loy me'ein berkoisov. Similarly, when it comes to every min, every type, when it's lettuce, we don't want to give the general bracha of Borei Pri Adam, but rather its specific type. In this case, Borei Minei Dishoim. Rabbi Zeira v'itema Rabbi Chanina bar Papa, another statement that he made. Bo ure'ei sheloi kemidas HaKadosh Baruch Hu midas basav adam. Come and see how, here it refers to how Ruchnius is different than Gashmius. Midas basav adam, the midah of Gashmius, is a clay rekon machzik. If you have a kli, a vessel, and it's empty, then you can pour something into it, and it will be machzik, that object, that thing, in this case, this liquid that you want to hold. However, it's mole, if the vessel is full, eino machzik, it can't hold onto this liquid that you're pouring into it because it's already full. Aval HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in regards to Ruchnius, eino ken, this is not so. Mole machzik. Reikon einoi machzik. That which is full of chachma, then it's machzik more chachma. That which is empty of chachma cannot be machzik chachma. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Vayomer im shamoya tishma. If you will hear, then you will listen. What is the double language? Im shamoya tishma, as follows. Im shamoya tishma. If you will then listen, then you'll be able to hear again. You'll be able to hear more. V'im lav, and if not, then lo tishma. You will not hear. You will not be able to understand. Davar acher. Im shamoya b'yashin. If you will hear the yashan, that old learning, meaning by you'll chazer and review the learning that you already learned, then tishma b'chadash, then you will hear new understanding and new chidushim in that learning. V'im yifne levavcha, the pasuk says, and if you will turn your heart to batala, shuv lo tishma, then you will not hear at all. The Gemara now brings a new Mishnah. We said previously that if a person has a fruit that comes from the tree, you make a bracha borei pri ha'etz. Alternatively, if a person has a fruit that comes from the ground, he makes a bracha borei pri ha'adama. So although the fruit comes from the tree, which also sprouts forth, of course, from the ground, but since it's a specific, more unique bracha, therefore the pri ha'etz gets a bracha of borei pri ha'etz and not borei pri ha'adama. Says our Mishnah, what if a person makes a mistake? Beirach al peiros ha'ilon borei pri ha'adama yotza. If a person accidentally he made a bracha borei pri ha'adama on an apple, so according to this Mishnah, he's yotza b'di'evid. Again, he can't take the apple and say borei pri ha'adama and eat the apple. But b'di'evid, if he did so, he's yotza. The al peiros ha'aretz, alternatively, if he has a vegetable, let's say a tomato, and he makes a bracha borei pri ha'etz, lo yotza, he's not going to be yotza because that would be a sheker. Indeed, the tomato does not grow from the tree. Ve'al kulam, and all of them, whether it's a fruit from the tree or a fruit from the ground, and even if it's going to be bread, im omar shahakol niyeh bidvoroi yotza b'di'evet, if he said shahakol niyeh bidvoro, he'll be yotze with that bracha, which is an all-inclusive bracha that Hashem made everything with his dibur. The Gemara begins as follows, asking, Man Tana, who is the author of this Mishnah that says if a person made a bracha borei pri ha'adama on a fruit, on an apple, b'di'evet he's yotza. Man Tana the Iker Elon Arahi. Who is the Tana who holds that the Iker, if the Elon, is the ground? And therefore, borei pri ha'adama is a good bracha. It's accurate also for the apple. Omer Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok Rabbi Yehuda. The author of our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda. This Nan teaches us in the following Mishnah in regards to bikurim fruits. In bikurim fruits, there are two mitzvos. There's the mitzvah of hava'os bikurim, to take one of the shiva minim from the first fruits of the shiva minim, not just one of them, but all of the shiva minim that grow in your land in Eretz Yisrael, and you to bring it to the Makam Mikdash in Yerushalayim and give it to the Kohen. There's a second mitzvah when you go to Yerushalayim, then to read psukim, giving hoidah, special thanks and praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for allowing you to then have a field in Eretz Yisrael that grew this fruit and able to then bring it to Yerushalayim and give it to the Kohen as bikurim. So it says over here in the Mishnah, if it's Yavesh Hamayan, if you have some fruits of the Shiva Minim that got its water, it was water from a Mayan, then subsequently after he cut off those fruits, the Mayan dried up and there's no longer the spring. Alternatively, Niksas Ha'ilon, if he had one of the Shiva Minim grow from the Elon and then he cut off some of those fruits for bikurim, subsequently the Elon then was cut down and no longer could grow again. So it says over here, there's a machloikis. According to the Tanakama, Mevi ve'eno kare. He brings the bikurim fruit to Yerushalayim, but he doesn't read the psukim. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Mevi ve'kare. What's the machloikis, whether you can say the psukim or not? Because the pasuk that's required to say is min ha'adama asher nosatali. So the Tanakama says, since indeed these fruits are coming from the tree or from the mayan, now in other words, the source of the growth of this fruit is either the spring or the tree itself, Therefore, you cannot say Min ha'adam asher nosatali, because since the mayan now is dried up or the tree is cut down, therefore there's no longer part of the adama that you can say the adama asher nosatali. However, according to Rabbi Yehuda, since the mayan or the tree is only a tofel, the ikar really is the adama, and therefore even if a person does not have longer a spring or he no longer has the tree, but since the ikar is the adama, he can still say these words, that the adama asher nosatali that you gave to me then produced this fruit for the bikurim. And therefore, since the ikar, again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is the ground, is the adama, although it's true, you need ultimately you have to have the tree or you have to have also the water, but the essence of the growth of this tree comes from the ground. Therefore, over here too, when it comes to the fruits, if a person did not say the bracha bari priya eitz, but instead said on the apple bari priya adama, that will be truthful, and therefore the source is the ground. It will be a bracha that is yotze with bidi evet.